Got it. So this is being live streamed now. And let me share my screen so we are ready to go. So if you give us about one more minute, we will get started right at 5 o'clock. Okay, it's 5 o'clock now, so let's go get ahead and get started. I want to welcome everybody to today's session of our Family and Community Engagement webinar series. Today's session is on resources and support, both through SELPA, through Alvor, and just through the community. How can we support our students with special education services, with 504s, really access their education well and achieve academic wellness and academic excellence, and just be well emotionally, mentally. I'd like to invite our guests today to open up their microphone, turn on their microphone, and introduce themselves. Ms. Sebastian.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Michelle Sebastian, and I'm the Director of Special Education for Albert Unified.
Ms. Talley.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Angie Talley, and I'm an ERMS case manager with SELPA.
And Ms. Talley might look familiar to some of you. Ms. Talley was an Albert Unified School District school social worker for 2 years, Ms. Talley?
This past school year, I was, yes.
All right. Well, we miss you.
Nice to be back.
Yeah, thank you for supporting us still.
Oops, of course.
Okay. Let me give you an invitation, excuse me, a thank you. On behalf of the Board of Education, thank you for being here. We know that it takes, it's like that old cliche, it takes a village to raise a child, and it really does. And we know that as a school system, we cannot maximize your students' achievement without your partnership. And we know that families need our help a lot of times as well. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your partnership. I know that maybe an hour here, 30 minutes there doesn't really seem like it makes that big of a dent. But over the course of 13 years of your child's education, it has huge, huge, huge implications. So thank you for being here. I want to remind you that we don't want to just talk at you for a full hour. That's boring for you, and that's boring for us as well. So what we'd like is for you to interact with us either through Q&A. We have the Q&A that's monitored continuously. We can address it towards the end of the session, which we have an opportunity to. But if there's a question that you'd like to ask, put it in the Q&A or put it into the chat box, and I'll raise it up to our guests who can address it. You can also raise your Zoom digital hand and request to speak. If you don't want to type in the question, we know that a lot of our families sometimes join us as they're driving or as they're at work and they can't type. Please be safe if you're driving. Just raise your hand, you'll unmute your microphone, and you can ask the question. And then again, the session is being live streamed. It's recorded, and it's going to be made available both on youtube.com/Alejandro Cisneros, which is where I host all of our webinar series, but also on the alvartschools.org official YouTube. So with that, let me share with you a little bit about today's agenda. First, we're going to talk about the resources that you have available to support your child through Albert Unified School District, then what's available in the community, and then what supports are available for families and students. So with that, I'll hand it over to Ms. Sebastian.
All right, so we're going to talk about a couple of resources that are available to the school district. And a lot of our parents tend to not know about this resource. And so if we can go to the next slide. Okay. Oops, skipped over, sorry. Okay, individual family service plan. And so this is basically what IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, pretty much this special education law has said that families of young children under the age of 3 with developmental disabilities are entitled to what we call an individual family service plan. So if you have a child that's under 3 years old and has developmental disabilities, typically something maybe your pediatrician or your family doctor may diagnose your child and say there are some developmental disabilities. There is a plan and a service that can help your child. And so parents can obtain what we call the Individual Family Service Plan, or the IFSP, through a referral to a local regional center, such as like a Head Start program, or early start program, Infant Circle, Inland Regional Center. Inland Regional Center, which Angie will talk about later on, is probably the most common known agency. And so basically what it does, it's a written document that outlines the services and supports that your child needs to help them catch up with their peers. And in this plan, they're going to document current level of functionings and needs. They're going to develop goals and services for your child. So sometimes students will qualify for speech services because there might be communication delays. They may qualify for occupational therapy services because there might be gross motor or fine motor delays. And sometimes our students or your child could qualify for physical therapy because there might be some sort of gross motor fine development delays. And then they also chart the student's progress. So how your child is making progress toward those goals and services that are outlined in this plan. And so why this plan is important for us. So a child can be on this plan from birth to up to their 3rd birthday. Once they turn 3 years old, the school district then doesn't necessarily mean always, but they may take over the plan, right? And so what happens is that the agency, maybe Inland Regional Center, will reach out to the child's school district, district of residence, and then will invite us to attend what they call a transition meeting. And in that transition meeting, usually your child at that time should be between the ages of 2 years, 6 months, and 2 years, 9 months. And in that transition meeting, they'll go over the IFSP, and then a representative from the school district will talk about special education services. So your child would not be eligible for special education services until 3 years old. Prior to 3 years old, they're on an individual family service plan. And in that transition meeting, the parent can then formally request a special education assessment. And then when that happens, the school district, in this case, it would be Alvord, we would then assess your child for special education services. And if your child qualifies, then they will receive an individual education plan. So I just wanted to talk about that because there is a significant difference between a IFSP and an IEP. IFSP, again, is not part of the school district. It's usually part of Inland Regional Center or Infant Circle, or some sort of like Head Start or Early Start program. And then if your child qualifies and you would like a special education assessment, then when the child is between 2 years, 9 months and 2 years, 9 months and 36 months, we would do a special education assessment. And then we would determine if your child qualifies for special education. But remember, just because your child qualifies, you as a parent still have to consent to that IEP plan.
Ms. Sebastian, if I may, we received a question in the chat, and this for me, lo pueden traducir en español, por favor. Sí, tenemos la información en español. Nuestra intérprete, Ivonne, nos está apoyando. Muchas gracias, Ivonne. Discúlpeme que se me olvidó, se me chispoteó, dar ese recordatorio. Pero en la parte inferior de su pantalla, en las herramientas de Zoom, tienen la opción de cambiar el idioma de inglés a español, English to Spanish, por medio de un globo Si no ven esa opción de un globo que dice Interpretation, verán 3 puntos que dicen More o Más, y ahí verán la opción de Interpretation y pueden cambiar la información de inglés a español. Muchas gracias, Sonia. Director Sebastian, if a family has a child under the age of 3, what is like the determination or the suggestion to seek out this IFSP or not?
So if you do have a child that's under 3 and you suspect, or maybe your family doctor or pediatrician suspects there's a developmental disability, then you may want to contact Inland Regional Center to see if your child qualifies for an IFSP.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to move on to the next slide. And so this is another resource that sometimes our parents are not aware of that could be really helpful. And so it's called Alternative Dispute Resolution. ADR is kind of what we like acronyms in special ed. And this is ADR is a free service that gives parties an opportunity to resolve disputes collaboratively. And so an IEP or individual education plan, special education services can be really complicated. And it involves a lot of people, a lot of the times, a lot of experts, a lot of services. And so when there's a lot of people involved, a lot of services, sometimes there's disagreements or conflict, right? Or miscommunication, and which is okay. And I think it's important for parents to have a forum to be able to express their disagreements or their concerns in a space where they feel that their feelings or their concerns are being heard, right? And so what we like to offer our parents is ADR. And school districts can facilitate ADRs with parents, but I actually would like to facilitate it through SELPA, because it's a third party, right? A neutral third party coming in and really mediating what the concerns are with the parents. And I think it's really important that parents feel they're in a space that is fair, confidential, and neutral. And so SELPA does a really, really great job on ensuring that parents' voices are heard and captured. And so I think this resource is really valuable. It's really great in resolving conflict. And we typically kind of tap into this service all the time. And SELPA definitely they're involved past the ADR. So if you have an ADR, SELPA will follow up to ensure that whatever's discussed, whatever's agreed upon in that confidential meeting is being carried out. Okay, I'm going to move on, and I think I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Cisnero.
Yeah, that's me. Thank you. So what I wanted to share with our community members here is the level of supports that you all have for your families through the school district now. And so I pulled up and I wanted to share with you all the picture of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You might be familiar with this, but at the very top is really what we're all seeking for all of our students, which is the self-actualization, the desire to become the most that you can be, right? It's having that academic excellence. That's the peak, that's the goal that we have for all of our students. But we know that a child can't get to that peak, to that summit, without having the basic needs met. And so that's something that our district knows and takes very seriously. And so that's something that my office, through the Family and Community Engagement departments, through our Community Schools Initiative, that we support our families with. And so over to the right of the screen, you'll see a list of the different team members that we already have here in Alvord that can support you. So we have our community workers and our community schools coordinators, and what they do is they receive referrals from administrators, from counselors, from teachers who say, I have a child, I have a student who has this need, whatever the need might be, and they make contact with the family and they see what the needs are. And so we have families who are struggling with homelessness, and the community schools coordinators and community workers, they do some outreach to our partners in the community to see if there's any resources for that. A family might need food, and so we refer them to our Albert Cares program or the food distribution, which again, thank you, Ms. Talley, for being here. Ms. Talley was integral in setting that up last year, and it's continuing. We're having our first food distribution of the year this Friday. So whatever the basic need is, shoes, backpacks, school supplies, it's our job to really bring that to the fore, to the top, and make sure that we can address it. So the community workers and community schools coordinators do a lot to support a child's basic needs. Then we also work closely with our counselors. At every single school site, we have counselors. Elementary schools have one counselor dedicated to them. Middle schools and high schools have a team of counselors that see different students, and they are the ones who are kind of the point person to support the child's emotional state, just making sure that emotionally they're doing well, mentally they're doing well. We know that children come to school and they have a lot on their mind from home, whether it be problems at home with parents, whether it be problems that they might be having with friends. We know that when a child's mind is on, I don't know, high schoolers, a breakup, middle schoolers, a breakup, that is big for them, right? And so when they are too focused on that, they're not able to really focus on their academics. And so our counseling team is really key in really bringing all of that up with the students and then trying to give the students strategies to address that. I'm going to skip down a little bit to community partnerships because we know that there are certain needs that the district can't support, nor we really we don't have the team members to support with. So when a child is dealing with some emotional trauma or physical trauma that the school district just doesn't have the personnel to support that need, then we reach out to somebody like the Wiley Counseling Service Center, the McKinley Center, Riverside University Health Systems, or County Health, to make sure that if there is a need that kind of goes beyond the scope of the school district, we're able to refer them out. Our school psychologists, they do a lot of support for our students, including like risk assessment if a child expresses a need to harm themselves or others. And then we have our school social workers, and we have school social worker interns who they work closely with our school psychologists, our counselors, our administrators throughout multiple schools in the district. I believe we have 10 school social worker interns, 2 social workers who lead the work. And then again, we have our community partnerships. So we really do in Albert have a robust team of people and a robust, really comprehensive way of supporting your students. Because again, going back to Maslow, what we really want is we want that self-actualization, and nothing, and that can't happen unless everything below it is really firm and taken care of, and that's our task. Thank you. I believe Ms. Talley, you're up.
Okay, thank you, Alejandro. So what I'm going to go over today is community support. So as part of the SELPA, so in case for those of you that don't know, SELPA is responsible for providing that like guidance and support to districts who are for providing their special education services to students. And then can you go, oh, can I switch your slides?
You can, yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, okay. So part of my, so at SELPA, I'm an ERMS case manager. The ERMS stands for Educationally Related Mental Health Services. And what I want to start off with showing everyone is a little overview of what RAP looks like. So when a student has RAP services on their IE team, basically what it means is that they're taking a team approach to help address any needs that the student may have. And the RAP team becomes kind of that bridge between home and the school to support the student. Now, I've made this graph just to kind of break down what that looks like. So for students that have an IEP, it's called ERMS RAP, and that's because it must be included in the IEP if the district determines that the student is eligible for that service. And the goal, again, is to help the student address obstacles or concerns that are impacting their academics. The team consists of a facilitator, behavior specialist, and a parent partner who works alongside with the parent to provide like resources or information, or maybe like, as an example, the student is not attending school and they have a difficult time waking up. So the parent partner within that team will help the parent learn strategies and skills to develop a routine that could support the student in getting back on track and attending school. This, like I mentioned earlier, you can only be referred by the district if the district determines that they are eligible for services. It's assessed every 3 months to determine whether there's still a need for continued services. Now, I recognize that not everyone will be eligible for ERMS RAP. So I wanted to include information for community RAP programs that offer kind of a similar support. So for those of you who have Medi-Cal, RUHS, which is Riverside University Health System, actually has their own county RAP team. And I think that they have like a little extra plus than the ERM services, because with RUHS, they can also have like a therapist on the team. They can have like a nurse practitioner on the team. And that would help, like if your son or daughter takes psychiatric medication and they need like ongoing follow-up to help them adhere to medication. It involves also, so it typically includes a therapist, a behavioral health specialist, a parent partner. And on this graph, it shows collaboration with probation, but that's only if the student is on probation. That's also another referral source, meaning that a probation officer could also refer a student or a minor to RAP services. So, and I didn't add it on here, but like I mentioned, the nurse practitioner piece is also huge, because if there's medication involvement involved, they can come support that. And the nice thing about wraparound services is that it's not just like at the school, or it's not just somewhere where you have to go. They actually come to you. So it's a community-based support. To be referred for this, you need to have Medi-Cal or RUHS. If your child is seeing a therapist through Riverside University Health System, they can also submit the referral. A self-referral also, meaning that you can go to any of their locations, and it should be on, I can't scroll up, but it should be on the bottom. There's some RAP locations where it'll tell you what locations you can go to apply for RAP services. And then lastly, a probation officer can also refer, but that would be court mandated. And they will provide, oh, there, okay. Oh, you know what? It was my own screen blocking the bottom. Sorry about that. So I was saying, okay, so they will provide the services up until the student turns 18. Another wraparound program that I think not a lot of people may know of is through DPSS. So if you have a child who is involved with DPSS, whether it be through foster care, and you're having a really hard time supporting the student, you can also, if it's a foster youth placement, you could connect with the social worker of that student to get a referral for wraparound services. Again, the goal of the DPSS RAP services is to support the child. They do it it's a community-based setting. The team consists of a therapist, a facilitator, behavioral health specialist, a parent partner, and strong collaboration with the social worker. So if this is something that, like I mentioned, you happen to be involved with DPSS for whatever reason, whether it's foster youth, you have that service available to you. You would contact the county social worker to get more information about that. Their services will go up until 21 years of age, because ultimately they want to be able to support the minor for as long as they can. So that's a kind of a little overview of RAP that I wanted to provide, just to make everyone aware of what other programs are out there for RAP.
And Ms. Talley, if I could just
yes.
highlight something that you said for our community members. You said if the district determines that this need is merited, but then also Ms. Sebastian had mentioned if you as a parent you would give consent. So I just want to remind all of our parents that are joining us that this really is a team determination and a team decision. These are during those IEP meetings, that's the time to really bring up these issues and to see what the options are. Because really, what we want as a school district is the same thing that you want as a parent, and that's just for your child to show success and to graduate high school, go on, be ready to be college and career ready. And so what that looks like for every child is different. But at these IEP meetings, that's when you, as a parent, bring up all of the concerns that you have, and that's when the IEP team will discuss what the different options are. Ms. Sebastian, we received a question in the chat that I'd like to direct to you. If my child has an IEP, can parent homework support be included? For example, guidance on how to explain homework with my child so that he or she understands.
Okay, that's a great question. So the IEP, the individual education plan, is for your student. However, if there is support that you're needing as a parent, if you're okay, maybe privately, you can drop your name in the chat box to Dr. Cisnero, because I would definitely like to talk to you further about how we can support you.
For sure. Yeah, thank you. And then I also want to bring to that parent, because it just, the name says parent, that through your child's class link, we have access to tutor.com, which is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, access to free tutoring. It's live tutoring. So what you can do if you need help explaining work to your child, because it came to a point where me as a father, when my daughter got to high school, I wasn't able to help her with everything. Like she got to like advanced, psychology, and I was just tapped out. I couldn't do it anymore. So what you can do is go through tutor.com. You can either type out what the question is, take a picture of what the question is, or record. I believe there's an option to record your voice. What you can't do is like this. We can't do Zoom video chats just for privacy protection. But you can put into tutor.com the different questions that your child is seeing in homework, and then somebody will live in an instant respond to you and give you guidance. They won't give you the answer. They are trained tutors to help students kind of think through the process, because we know if we give the child the answer, they're just going to write down the answer and move on. So that's also a support that's available to you. So if you need that level of support, absolutely send me, if you'd like, your name through a private message or send me an email. But we already have that support through tutor.com. The question came up, are these tutorings understanding working with special needs? So do the tutors understand working with special needs? Well, every child is different. And so I would say, I don't know the specifics on whether they can help every single child depending on the need. And I think that's where, the IEP team would respond with what the best way to address the needs of the child are, whether tutoring.com or something else. That's a very good question. All right, Ms. Talley, back to you. Ms. Talley.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, so I'll continue with going through some community resources and supports available. So the next one is the Inland Regional Center, which you'll also hear us refer to as IRC. IRC is a nonprofit agency that provides support through case management and resource coordination to people with disabilities such as autism, cerebral palsy, intellectual disabilities, and epilepsy. They also actually serve children ages 3 to 4 who do not have to have a diagnosis. And that's, I believe Mrs. Sebastian had mentioned earlier, you could contact them for like assessments to see if they would be eligible for services. So with the IRC, ultimately their goal is to really support individuals with disabilities with independence, to be empowered and independent. And they have a plethora of resources on their website. But I wanted to go over a few and show you all, kind of give you an idea of the type of supports that they can offer if you are eligible for their services. So the first one is these common services. Can I click on it? You know what, Alejandro, I can't click on it from my end.
I can. There you go.
Awesome. Thank you. So this is basically, I'm trying to scroll up and I can't. Okay. So this is, it's a 6-page document. I'm not going to go over the whole document because it's a lot of information, but I want to give you an idea of all of the services that they can provide. It goes from employment programs, like if you have a son or daughter who's getting ready to graduate from high school and they want to transition and become more independent by getting a job, they can help with like skill building. There's also, I think, something else in there with like, just like different, like if they need support, housing support services. So again, people with disabilities who want to work towards living on their own. So they have supports to be able to help those individuals with like housing. Respite is one that's huge, and that's if you go back to the other slide, Alejandro, you can click on the respite link, please. Thank you. So this one is a service that's also provided. This is provided to families of individuals with disabilities. Like we all understand, it can be very stressful financially, emotionally, physically to care for someone that has a disability. So IRC offers respite services. Respite means basically, in a nutshell, it's a resource to help you take a break. If you need some time to yourself to go run some errands, or you have yourself some really important medical appointments where you can't take your loved one who is disabled, they can help you with finding someone who can provide you that relief. It can be through like a contractor, or it can be like an approved family member, but this is a really great service that I wanted to emphasize, that's available to caregivers. Thank you. And I think there's one more, the transitional. Yeah. This one, I added this one on there because I've been hearing a lot for meeting with different RAP providers that serve our students with IEPs, that they have reached a point where the student is now turning 18, maybe they're a senior in high school, and they're not going to have the same supports that they've had the whole time that they've been in school. So this is, again, a service through IRC that helps your youth transition from like adolescence to adulthood. And what does that look like? Everything ranging from like basic need to life skills, employment skills, housing, and they help develop a plan and goals to help your youth with that. I think this is really something really important to consider, because when they're in school, there's so much support, but once they get out, it's not the same. You don't have the same connection. So IRC, if you don't already have it, is a really good resource to get connected with before your son or daughter graduates.
Ms. Tally, I'm going to have this link in the chat for our families.
Perfect. So thank you.
Access these links as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the respite transitions and the common are in Spanish as well. Okay, thank you.
Got it.
Okay. The next resource that I want to talk about.
Okay. Sorry, Ms. Tally, that was my bad. Sorry about that.
It's okay. It's the RUHS. RUHS stands for Riverside University Health System, and this is the parenting training program. For this particular resource, your child does not have to have a disability. They don't have to have an IEP. They don't have to have Medi-Cal to qualify for this service. So to qualify for this service, you just have to have you just have to have a child youth with the mental health, emotional, or behavior challenges. The really neat thing about this program is that they connect you with the parent partner to help you with the challenges that you may be facing. You might be at a point where it's like, I don't know, I can't get my son or daughter to school. I'm at a point where I don't know what to do anymore. They actually have like a non-emergency crisis support line where you can call them, get support. And then also, once you're matched with the parent partner, they can also help you navigate the RUHS resources. So you know how earlier I talked about the wraparound program. So that's something that if you're connected with the parent partner, they can help you navigate all that. And I'll tell you, the RUHS website is a beast. Like there's a lot of information. You have to be real tech savvy to get through all the resources. So if you have someone like a parent partner, they can navigate all of those complexities for you and get you connected with whether it be individual counseling, wraparound program or substance abuse programs. They can be a really good resource. Now, just kind of an inside info that I have coming from Albert is that the student services actually has a direct referral, or maybe through the family engagement center now. They used to. I could be wrong. But they have a direct linkage to get referred to someone from the parenting training program. So if that's still in place, I would strongly consider reaching out to someone at your school to get a referral for this.
So one of the things that you said, Ms. Talley, that I found very impactful and powerful in this program is that you don't have to have a student with special needs or a 504 to access this program. I know that the parents that we invited here, we put this out on our parent square for everybody and our social media for everybody. But here we sent direct text messages to our families of students with special education needs. So families who are here, if you know of a parent who may be struggling with parenting, I know parenting is hard, you can reach out to the Student Services Department. We still do provide this referral, or your child's school. We do have a question that came into the chat that I'd like to address. It says, hello, good evening. I need help from my child on how to do his homework. How can I receive help? So there's a couple of things that we can do there. First, if your child is in the after-school program, the Expanded Learning Opportunity program, they do have homework help and tutoring available through that program. So if they're not in the program, I would recommend that you talk with your child's school or school secretary or counselor or principal and request the application, which you can get on Parent Square or do it on your own. But if you need help, they can support you through that and having them apply for the, we call it the ELA program, Expanded Learning Opportunity Program. Going back to the comment that I had made earlier, if your child needs help understanding a particular concept, we do have the 24-hour tutoring through tutor.com, found through ClassLink. And then I know that many teachers, they either give up their lunch for tutoring or homework help, they stay after school, or they come before school to help your child's help your child do their homework, do their assignments. So not every teacher is able to do that. I know that as a teacher, sometimes I would, sometimes I wouldn't, because as a teacher, I had my heaviest year was 175 students every single day, and after 175 students, you're tired. You kind of just want to go home, right? So check in with your child's teacher or principal or counselor and see what sort of support your child's particular school can offer. Us here, we work at the district office level and Ms. Talley at the county level. So we don't know the specifics of every single school. So check with your child's school to see what's available for them. Ms. Sebastian, we have a question that I'd like you to address. Does the after-school program follow IEP guidelines as well?
Yeah, so once a child has been identified with a disability, definitely we would need to take that into account, and then we would need to look at the after-school program and determine what supports and services they have available in that program to ensure that student that has a disability is able to access the program.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to, just the I in the IEP, it's the individual, right? So that's a very good question for this parent. If you have that question, I know that IEPs are done on an annual basis, but you can always ask for an additional IEP, an additional meeting, call that meeting, and bring these questions up. It's a very good question. Ms. Talley, I think this might be for you. Would IRC, the Inland Regional Center, have reading tutoring resources?
I don't know if they specifically have tutoring, but I know there is a section that goes over educational supports. So my inclination is to say yes, but I don't know for sure. But they do offer like educational supports.
Thank you.
Okay. The next resource that I want to go over is it's more related to crisis. So if your student or child has some sort of like mental health crisis, behavioral health crisis, this is the number that you can contact and use both in the community and in your home to have your child, and it doesn't have to be a child, this is also for 18 and over, to be assessed. So that response team will determine kind of the level of service that person needs at that time and make referrals according to what's needed. A crisis, just to be a little more detailed, could be like if someone is threatening self-harm, if someone is threatening to harm someone else, or if they're having like a brief psychosis episode, and you're not sure whether to take them to the ER or to contact law enforcement. This is a resource. Now, I want to emphasize that this is if there is any imminent threat, like if you're afraid for your safety or somebody else's, the best thing would be to call 911 or go to the nearest ER. This is just a resource that you can use in lieu of going to the ER or contacting law enforcement to get support services. The mobile crisis team doesn't typically respond with law enforcement unless there's some kind of report of violent behavior or weapons or something related to safety in that regard. Then they would respond to law enforcement. I like to emphasize that because sometimes when I work with parents who have children who go into crisis often, like they're hesitant to contact law enforcement or any type of crisis team because they don't want that kind of attention in the home. So this is just an alternative for you to be able to access. The nice thing about the mobile crisis team is that they have access to the mobile crisis management team. And basically, if they go out to your home and they determine that you need certain referrals, like for wraparound or therapy, they will in that moment refer you to the mobile crisis management team, who will come out to your home and actually help you with those consultations, help you with the referrals, and help you get connected to those services. So that's that one. Let's see. Okay. This is also along the same lines of mental health crises or crisis resources. This is something that I don't know if a lot of people are aware of, but typically we say, in case of an emergency or imminent threat to danger, go to the ER, call 911. However, if there's no imminent threat to danger, we also imminent threat, there's also mental health urgent cares, and there's an emergency treatment service center in Riverside who serves children from 13 and over. So with the mental health urgent care, the ways that you can use it, for example, is like, let's say son or daughter is out of psychiatric medication, they're starting to have like behavior outbursts, and you're not sure what to do because you can't see the psychiatrist for a couple weeks. The urgent care is an alternative. You could take your son or daughter to this location to get a medication refill. They can provide up to a 30-day supply of medication. And if you notice that the psychiatrist, prescribed the medication, it's been 2 weeks, but their behaviors are just unmanageable, you can't control it, they can also provide adjustments at the urgent care until you're able to get in to see the regular doctor. With these services, you don't have to have insurance. they accept any insurance, and you don't have to have any insurance. If you do, someone said urgent care in Paris. So there's actually an urgent care in Paris, Palm Springs, and then the ETS is in Riverside. So I'll go through that in a second. So if you don't have insurance and you show up at the urgent care, they will help you apply for emergency Medi-Cal at that location to help you get covered. So they will cover the services. The only thing that won't be covered is the medication. The medication for the uninsured would be an out-of-pocket cost. So for the urgent cares, which are located in Paris and Palm Springs, would be 18 and over. And then the ETS, which is in Riverside, that's a psychiatric hospital. Hold on a sec. The urgent care is in Paris. Okay, I'm just, someone was asking comments about the urgent care location that I was talking about, so I want to make sure that I touch base on that before I move on. Okay, yeah, so the urgent cares are in the Paris location and Palm Springs. That is correct. And then the Riverside location is actually for youth. It's not for adults. So that's why I added that one on here, because Paris and Palm Springs are only for 18 and over, and ETS is for 13 and over in Riverside. The ETS is actually considered a psychiatric hospital, so they can offer more intensive supports than the urgent care. If you were to take your son or daughter to the ETS location in Riverside, if they will assess to kind of see what needs they have, and if they determine that they need more higher level of care, they actually have an inpatient treatment facility at the location. So that way you wouldn't have to wait. There's no there's not like a long period of time. It's actually all at the center.
Yeah, Ms. Talley, I didn't know that we had this service really just right down the street from our schools right here at County Farm Road. It's not too far. And it's I believe you said something fascinating. It's like an urgent care or an emergency for mental health.
Yeah, it's not very close to the region of your district, but it is an option. It's in Paris and in Palm Springs. I mean, I think Paris would be the closest, but it's an option. I'd like to share that, because sometimes going to the ER, you have these like huge wait lines. It takes a very long time. So this is a good alternative if my son or daughter are not going to harm themselves right now. I just need to see someone to help them fix the medication, or see someone to help them do a safety plan so they don't harm themselves. This would be a good option. It's not close, but Paris is one. Actually, at that point, if you need like a safety plan or them to see a therapist, it would be ETS, which is in Riverside.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's the one I was mentioning, the ETS. It's right off of Tyler and Hole, it seems, really close by. On Magnolia, yeah.
Yep. That's a good resource to have.
Beautiful. I'd like
walk-ins. Oh, sorry. Just last thing, they're all walk-ins and they're 24/7.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you for this fascinating level of support here. So I'd like to bring up a couple of questions that have come up. Is there a form that the district needs from a psychiatrist when students need to miss school because of mental health issues and crisis? So I would say, just like with any medically excused absence, bring a form to the school secretary and the school principal, and then the principal and secretary will determine whether it's an excusable absence or not based on California Ed Code. We always follow California law, California Ed Code, on what's excusable absence and what isn't. I would say if your child is out because they're at a psychiatrist, bring a note. I'll always bring a note, and then they'll make the determination. How can you help kids with autism? Ms. Sebastian and Ms. Talley, I'll throw that to both of you.
Yeah, so if you're a parent that does not have a student with an IEP, an individual education plan, meaning they're not currently in special education, but you suspect they have autism, or there's a medical diagnosis from a psychiatrist, a therapist, a pediatrician that your child does have autism, I would recommend that you share that information with your school site secretary, principal, the special education office. Maybe we can drop my contact information in the chat. And then that way we can look at the report, or we can take your request if you want additional services because you suspect your child has autism, or your child does have a medical diagnosis. And then we can look at doing a special education assessment. If your child currently has an IEP due to having autism, we have various supports and services to support our students that have autism. And so if you would like to kind of explore it, because I would probably be here all day because we have so many supports and services. So if you would like to kind of explore what that would look like for your individual child, especially if your child does have an IEP and to protect confidentiality, that would be great if you can send a private chat to Dr. Cisnero with your information, and then we can follow up as well.
Beautiful. And in the chat, Ms. Hendricks already dropped in your phone number and your email. Thank you, Rashawn. And then I've dropped in the link for the Special Education Department website.
Perfect. Thank you.
Somebody else, Amanda said, when my son was in the special all-day program, they would not allow him to go into the after-school program. And that was a comment to the parent who had brought that up, who brought that question. Again, I think it goes based on the individual's child's needs and services that are written within the IEP. The IEP is a perfect place to bring that up. Anita asks, how can we protect our kids from bullies in schools? That is something that's here at Albert Unified School District. We don't tolerate bullying. So if your child is experiencing conflict, or maybe it does elevate to the level of bullying, please, please, please bring that up to your school principal and school counselor as soon as possible. We as a school district have a lot of strategies and mechanisms to address that. So please bring that up. Thank you. Let's see here. And then we do have a couple of questions in the Q&A. I don't have family here in California. I'm a single mom. It's just me and my son, and I'll be working morning shifts. Will not be able to take him to school. Is there any support for this kind of situation? My son is currently in an IEP. Ms. Sebastian?
Yeah, and so we do offer special education transportation, and that request happens through an IEP meeting. So I would recommend speaking to your child's special education case care and requesting an IEP meeting to discuss transportation.
Yeah, and again, oh, go ahead.
And just to add to that, another resource you can look at is contacting the RUHS Parenting Training Program, and they can help connect you with resources in the community. Like I know our COE has like a voucher childcare program that a parent partner from PTP can help connect you with.
Thank you, Ms. Talley. Thank you, Ms. Sebastian, for that. And then to that parent, whether your child is in special education services or not, one thing that I know that many parents kind of informally arrange throughout the district is pickups. So if you know somebody in your neighborhood, in your community, and you trust them with kids in our schools, we have a lot of parents who take turns picking up and dropping off kids at school. But again, that's something to just kind of investigate at your school itself, maybe through the PTO or the PTA. But back to Ms. Sebastian's point, transportation is offered for certain students and for certain situations, certain programs. Again, bring that up in the IEP. Miriam asked, what type of resources are available for gifted children? My son has been identified as highly gifted, but since he is in the second grade, there are no programs available for him yet. It's a neurodivergence, however, and unfortunately not applicable for an IEP. We do have a great and very robust gifted and talented education program here at Alvord, but identification does begin at third grade for the GATE program. So I oversee the identification of GATE, and so if you'd like to maybe call me, send me an email, we can kind of I can express and explain what gifted and talented students do receive in Alvord. But even if a child is gifted, not gifted, has a 504, an SST, whatever the individual needs of the child are, my recommendation would be to bring that up to the child's teacher. And what the teachers do throughout the entire district at every single school, they do differentiated instruction. And so the teacher, at the beginning of the school year, students take a lot of informal assessments or school-based assessments to really give that teacher data on what levels your child are performing in math, in science, and language arts, and whatever the subject may be. Based on that, then the teacher then gives additional questioning or different type of questioning, additional support, pulls small groups, gives extension and enrichment opportunities for the child. So every single student here in Alvord has really highly qualified, very caring teachers who get to know them at a deep level and then differentiate instruction for them. So for your child who is in the 2nd grade, yes, the gifted and talented education identification will begin next year in the 3rd grade, but don't wait. Have a conversation with the child's teacher on their neurodivergence and their high academic aptitude, and then the teacher can tell you what sort of differentiation they provide in the classroom. Ms. Sebastian, I believe this question might be for you. My daughter receives ABA therapy outside of school. She really wants to join the after-school reading club. Is her ABA therapist allowed to attend the after-school reading enrichment program with her for that hour?
And then, Dr. Cisnero, did the parent say the student has an IEP or?
It does not say has an IEP.
Okay. Okay. So I'll answer it both ways. So if your child has an IEP and your student's receiving ABA services, and the student needs ABA services or some sort of behavior modifications or interventions during the school day, and we're determining that maybe the student may need it in the after-school program, it is the responsibility of the school district, which would include the after-school program, to make sure that that student has, or your child has, all their supports necessary. So to kind of answer your question, and again, each case is, individualized, but to kind of generically answer that question, typically we would not invite an outside agency to provide the service. We would provide the service. We have skilled behavior interventionists that can provide similar ABA type of services. So if that is something that the after-school program and the IEP is deemed necessary to be able to access the program, and then we would make sure your child gets that support. We wouldn't have an outside agency because it doesn't fall on you as a parent to make sure your child's able to access the program. It's our responsibility. If it's a general education student, that's a little different, right? Because they're not in an IEP where there's a suspected area of need and there's actually deficits in that area. So I don't want to speak for the after-school program because they're not here. So that would need to go through the after-school program. I would imagine that that person would have to go through kind of like I think, Dr. Cisnero, do they have like volunteers and stuff like that? So it would have to go through more of kind of like a volunteer process.
I don't think that an outside service provider would be able to come on for ABA therapy during the after-school program. Again, I don't, like you said, I don't want to speak for the
I don't want to speak.
Yeah, I don't think that'll fit because they're not employee of the district. So those sort of services for your child, I'm very thankful for you that you're providing those services for the child. That's key. But I don't know that they would fit into being able to allow them onto campus for the after-school program.
Yeah, I think that your best bet would be to contact the after-school program, to contact ELOP. Maybe somebody can put the information in the chat.
Sure.
Because I think Dr. Cisneros is correct that it is an outside agency. And so there is a possibility they would not, but I don't want to speak for them because I don't know for sure. So I think the best thing to do is to ask if your child's in general education to directly reach out to ELOP and ask that question. But if they're in special education, like I said earlier, we would provide the service should your child need it. Should your child need that service in the after-school program?
Right. Anita wrote in a comment. My son attends art after school program. I am his mom, his one-on-one with clearance. So yes, as a parent, you can go through our volunteer clearance program, which you fill out the application with the school front office. We do a quick background check just to make sure that the adults that are around all of our students are safe to be around all of our students. And then we ask for tuberculosis screening. Once that's done, you would then be cleared for volunteering. You work with your school site principal because the principal is the person who determines the volunteer needs, and they will be the ones to give you the final authorization. Mr. Lemus says for high functioning, try a 504. The concern is about learning difficulties such as ADD or anxiety. That's a very good suggestion. Again, bringing all these issues to your child's teacher, if they're in special education, case carrier. If they're not in special education, then to the counselor or principal. That way, their individual needs are heightened. I think that Ms. Sebastian said it correctly. We could be here for hours with each individual students' needs and questions. But our main message to you today, if I can, Ms. Sebastian, I don't want to speak for you, but I think the main message that I would like our families to get from this is to seek resources, seek help through the school, through the IEP, through the team.
Yes, I would agree with that.
And we are right at 6 o'clock. Ms. Tally, I think you're up.
Yes. So for the sake of time, I will just briefly go over these really quick. These are additional supports. These are all websites to agencies that support people with disabilities. I had planned to go through them, but I won't, just to respect everyone's time. But just really quick, if you can click on that link, Dr. Cisneros, on Community Access Center. I just want to show parents like a quick.
I don't.
Sorry. It's the first link. Sorry.
Of course. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. Okay, so just briefly, so this resource right here, again, it's for people with disabilities in Riverside County. It has all kinds of services and resources. I wanted to show, if you scroll up, Dr. Cisneros, and
yes,
go to services, please. There's a link that I wanted to show parents, and then go down to IEP, Individualized Education Plan, my program. Yep. And then scroll down. Okay. So this link, for example, gives you all the basics, like having a student with an IEP, being a part of the IEP, like Ms. Sebastian had mentioned earlier. There's a lot of different people involved, a lot of assessments, a lot of forms. There's a video at the bottom of this link that goes over like basic IEP 101. So I just wanted to show that. Is it down there? It should be down there.
Right there.
Yep, there it is. Okay. So it just kind of goes over all the basics. I wanted parents to have access to that. The other website, you can get out of this. Oh, it's long. We don't have time for it.
Got it.
Yeah. So this is one that again, I wanted to share so you guys can see. The next website, quickly, the Disabilities Right California, that goes over, it's basically a legal resource for individuals with disabilities. It covers everything from like education to like housing to SSI. And these are, some of these programs offered are actual attorneys that will help you with certain cases. But if they determine that they'll take your case, but it's all offered for individuals with disabilities. We don't have time to show it, but one of the links that I wanted to show you was on SSI. Like if you have a son or daughter that is receiving SSI and you get a letter that says that you received overpayments, the link goes over everything on how to resolve it, what to do, who to contact. So it's just a great legal resource for individuals to have on hand. And lastly, that guide for parents and guardians of students with disability, that is it's a manual that was created by both SELPA and the Community Advisory Committee, which consists of parents with children with disabilities. And it gives you the 101 all information about SELPA, about IEP, what are your legal rights, what are the timelines, and when you should expect answers, responses. It's full of information that I think would be super helpful for parents to know.
Beautiful. And these are the links that are in the slide deck, and I've already shared into the slide
Awesome.
deck for parents these slides. So parents, you can go in at your own leisure and click on the links.
Thank you so much.
We are out of time. We're 4 minutes over time. Thank you to Ms. Talley for this fantastic. I can't thank you enough just how powerful these resources are and just the impact that they have potential for our students. Thank you to Ms. Sebastian for being here and engaging in this dialogue. Thank you to our parents for keeping it interesting, keeping it on our toes. So as I mentioned at the beginning, we don't want this to just be us talking to you for an hour, and it wasn't. Thank you. Muchas gracias, Yvonne, for being here, la campeona, to support us with interpretation. And thank you to all of our Alvord Unified School District staff members from our special education team. I see Ms. Belton is here. I saw Ms. Hendricks was here. Thank you for joining us. Everybody, have a good night.